Hello again. Still working on getting through my pile of stuff that I want to get posted just for posterity. So anyway, um, working for the Ogden bus yard in the buses. Yeah. My other phone's going off. So driving for the Ogden bus yard, and uh, the way UTA treats Ogden, in metaphoric way is like the Ogden bus yard is kind of treated like the unwanted stepchild of UTA. All the other routes are more glamorous and this, that, and the other. And I like driving the 630. So anyway, but what happens is on the 630, because they have so little. Oh yeah, there's Milo behind me. Have just so little regard for the Ogden bus yard that they always send the older buses up to Ogden to do the Brigham City run and other local runs up there that I've never done. So you get the 630 buses, which when I was driving, those buses were nearing retirement, where they punch a hole through the cylinder block and then retire the bus for tax reasons or whatever. So anyway, what was happening with me on the 630 route was that in the winter, there you had no control over the hot air vent on your right foot. So you could never turn it off on the buses that I got. And so what ended up happening, now I've had athlete's foot ever since I was in the Marine Corps. So I know how to take care of my feet, okay? And that's an absolute. I know how to take care of my feet. So anyway, what was happening is I couldn't turn off the heat on my right foot. So in my athlete's foot that I had, because I don't have any more toes on this foot, so I don't know which word to use, had or have. So anyway, I couldn't turn off the heater on my foot for one winter, and my athlete's foot turned into trench foot because I was working so intensely I could never dry my feet out completely to avoid getting trench foot. So I walked into a podiatry office in South Ogden and cried help. And because of my they took me on, and I'm not going to mention their name, who helped me, because it's just not worth it. But anyway, I don't want to get somebody else in trouble that is actually a decent person. And so anyway, I walked into the clinic and showed them my foot, and they said, "You can't leave." Now, because of my genetics, I got that weird Scots-Irish genetics where local anesthetics do not work on me. When I get dental work done, it's live and in color. Okay? So I went into this clinic and they started debriding my foot. Well, local anesthetics don't work on me. So when they were working on my foot, it was live and in color, debriding my wound between my pinky toe and the next toe. And their whole thing was saving limbs. And and you guys see me smoke once in a while, but it's not related to smoking because I bleed okay. So anyway, they would debride my foot without any painkillers, and I couldn't. At one point, they started getting really frustrated with me because I could not stop my body from jerking away from the pain of having my foot debrided without any painkillers, because the painkillers don't work on me. And I went through that for a month or so, something like that. So they tried another experimental thing with me where they injected dried placenta into the wound directly. The big long needle, no painkiller, stick it right in between my pinky toe and such. And yeah, well, that's the only way I can describe it. Lots of pain. But anyway, so they got frustrated with me because of not being able to debride me, and they couldn't numb me. So that I had 2 surgeries where on the first surgery, oh man, I felt so good because they knocked me out with their gas. I didn't remember waking up, but when I did wake up, there was no pain at all. And they let everything heal. They had me on a vacuum pump and this, that, and the other. And I was allowed to go back to work. Well, something in the system didn't work out right or anything like that. So they ended up having to do a second surgery on my foot. But I never had to pull any stitches out or anything like that. I didn't have any drainage or anything, and I was healed. So I went back to work. Well, what happened is after I went back to work, I kept working and everything like that. I'm not sure exactly what the term was or anything like that, but somehow I did not heal completely, and it ended up with me being in a lot of pain all the time from that foot, my right foot. So I kept working through the pain and working through the pain. I wasn't having any drainage or anything like that. It was just a huge amount of pain. And so I walked in to the local clinic there, and they sent me to emergency, and then I got back out, and then I ended up at the Brigham City Hospital, which is an awesome hospital, by the way. If you get hurt in northern Utah and you have the ability, go to Brigham City Hospital, because I'll tell you what, when I went in, there was so many people helping me that it was overwhelming, and I got claustrophobic, and I actually had to get them to have a couple people leave, because I was, my brain and body went into escape mode, and I think they kept me in there for 3 or 4 days and then sent me to rehab, and I was allowed to go back to work. Well, anyway, what ended up happening is my foot didn't get all the way healed for some reason, because they let me go early or whatever. And so I kept on working after I was released to go back to work, and I ended up in a huge amount of pain because my wound, for some reason, had gotten even worse. And it turned into what's called osteomyelitis. And I got submitted to the Huntsman Cancer Center, and eventually ended up losing all of my toes on my right foot. And while trying to get back to work with the UTA, my doctors at the Huntsman Cancer Center, and I had the letters, said I'm okay to go back to work. and I went through all the rehab and everything like that. I had to take out all of my retirement money, 72 grand, when the Fed took 28% off the top on that. And then what UTA did, and here's the thing, the kicker with UTA, is they didn't know that, or any of the process of what I was going through, not the medical process, but for me to get back to work. They weren't going to let me go back to work unless I did a thing called an SPE, a skills performance evaluation. And basically it's a letter that the driver has to fill out themselves, testifying against themselves to go back to work. And it's a paperwork thing only, as far as I know, because I already went through therapy and everything like that, because they had CMS, I think it's CMS, coming over, checking my rehab, making sure that my biotics were okay, and everything like that. They released me to go back to work. But what UTA decided they want is a skills performance evaluation. But they didn't know, and this is the thing, they didn't even know what it was until I showed up. So apparently in the entire history of the Utah Transit Authority, I'm the only person that's had to go through this journey of trying to get back to work. So, and plus, I got zero help from the Ogden WorkMed and from UTA to find a path for me to get back to work. They would not let me do any light duty work that they do with every other driver that I've known of. There's all kinds of simple stuff that I could have done. I could have worked the parts bin at the Ogden yard and such. So it ended up happening because I couldn't figure out how to do the SPE myself. It got zero help from the UTA as far as in the history apparently of that UTA. This has never happened to anybody before, because they did not know how to access the paperwork, get the setup, and all this stuff done. And every time we try to call, I would try, or Ogden WorkMed would try. Apparently the SPE office is in St. Louis, Missouri. Now it's just like the flipping IRS. You call in, you get a person who doesn't know anything about anything. Like they've never heard of a skills performance evaluation at all. It's a pure bureaucracy thing that I can't explain because there's no explanation for it. So anyway, I ended up, in order to access my medical records and stuff like that, I had to quit the UTA in order to access my retirement money so that I could survive and pay off all my medical bills, because my insurance through the UTA had run out. Well, plus once my insurance ran out, I was forced to quit, not because I wanted to quit, but that was the only way I could access my retirement money. Now, as far as I know, there's through any of the community colleges and in the Salt Lake Valley, none of them have any way to access an SPE. They did have an SPE conference because I researched all this stuff, but all of that was way back like 10 years ago, or even longer than that. I did all of my research trying to find out how to get an SPE. Well, basically, it's an online thing where you have to testify against yourself regarding your wound. And I don't know how to do that. And I got zero help from UTA after this all happened. And it was a whole thing that nobody could figure out to let me go back to work. My doctors at the Huntsman Cancer Center say I'm 100% functional. I'm able to go back to work. There's no reason why I shouldn't be working. I've got the paperwork here and everything that would be the same thing as an SPE. But Ogden WorkMed and the Ogden and the UTA will not accept my paperwork from the Huntsman Cancer Center. So in effect, they are using, the UTA is using the process to keep me pigeonholed out of going back to work for the UTA, even though I'm fully functional. I can walk up and down stairs, I can do my laundry, I can ride a bike, I can drive, I can do everything that a normal person does, except for, well, I can run 100 yards if I had to, if it was an emergency, but there's no reason, and there's no safety issue that stops me from being able to drive safely. And 30 years in the business, no accidents, and at working for UTA, when I was working for UTA, my variance from schedule was only 2%. So I'm basically a robot. I'm a non-liability. I'm not going to cause any problems. And, it's just a mystery to me why I have to go through all this stuff. I'm going to lose my house, like I've said this before. I'm out of money, and the federal government owes me money, but if that's caught up in stock market horse crap. It's the whole bureaucracy thing. At some point, people are going to get fed up with meaningless things like a clearance of a stock trade. That whole system should be automated, but apparently with my issue with the IRS is the automated part of the system failed. I don't know. So anyway, there it is. I don't think there's really a whole lot of other stuff with regard to my situation, except for I need to get to Kentucky. I need to get back to work. I'm going to end up selling my house, and then I was looking at rental apartments in Paducah, Kentucky, and wow, everything's gotten expensive. But that was 6 or 7 years ago. So my perspective is I don't even know if I'll be able to find a place to live in Paducah. But I don't have any choice because the state of Utah has a lien on my house and this, that, and the other. So I'm going to end up with a wad of cash of some sort and have to find somewhere to live. And there it is. So anyway, that's my saga of all the crap I've had to go through with the UTA and how little help they've given me. And I find it, how can I say, I find it strange that from my perspective and the reaction of the UTA and the Ogden WorkMed, that in the history of the Utah Transit Authority, I am the only person who's ever had to go through this horse crap. That's it is my proof is in the pudding that for whatever reason, somebody at some point decided that they did not want me to work for the UTA anymore, and I was persistent enough that when they finally had a chance to get rid of me, that was the way to get me out. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see what happens with this. I could have sabotaged myself with being able to work for Paducah Area Transit, and that's okay. I'll figure something out. Oh, and don't drive for Uber. You do not drive for Lyft and everything. It's a total ripoff. I tried driving for Uber, and they're still holding $800, and I have no access to my money. They're holding that hostage, and I need that money to survive. And Lyft, I could still drive for Lyft, but it's hard on your car and your brakes and everything like that. So thanks for watching. Now I'll get through this. I'll survive it somehow. I got acres and acres of everything that I've been through with that, and I hopefully Social Security disability will come through fairly quick for me, and that'll help out. I don't know how that system works completely, because I don't want to be forced to be poor. And there it is. And just if you're watching any of this, just send me some goodwill, so that maybe I can get through this and get back to pretending I'm normal. I want to get back up to my 180 pounds because I'm super skinny. Yeah, I'm surviving off of Dinty Moore and Coca-Cola and Barks root beer. I don't like the other fruity drinks. And so there it is. And thanks for watching.